Hello and welcome back to the Barstoolers Premier League podcast. We're back again for another week, and unfortunately this week we're without Michael, so it's just me, Connell, and Ronan and James are joining me this week. It's been quite a difficult week to schedule recording this podcast, so I'm not sure how long or short it'll be this week. It's a bit rushed, but obviously you'll know how long it is by looking at your device. But maybe not the worst week for that to have happened, because it wasn't a great week of Premier League action, was it, boys?
No. I was actually just saying that before we start recording. I was watching the Man City and West Ham game on Saturday, and I went to watch the game after that, which I think was the Palace game, and I already forgot I'd watched the Man City match. I couldn't for the life of me. I was 10 minutes into the Palace match, and I couldn't for the life of me remember what match I just watched.
For me, the statisticians cursed it for us. Like they said, it was like averaging 3.4 goals a game this season, and it's gone back to the under 2 that weekend was just abysmal, I have to say.
Yeah, I seen someone tweet, it's like the generally accepted takes before this Premier League weekend. There's loads of goals, Villa are class, and Everton are unreal. And obviously Everton ended up losing 2-0 to Southampton this week. Villa went down 3-0 to Leeds, and there was barely any goals. So not ideal. But maybe that's a good place to start. It was the first game on the Friday night. It was Villa at home to Leeds, and Patrick Bamford scored a hat-trick. He looked absolutely unbelievable, didn't he?
Yeah, the second goal in particular, second and third goals, are both really well taken goals. He's really surprised me since he came back up in the Premier League, because I was kind of under the impression that Bamford was a bit shish, because I think he missed like the most chances last year in Championship. He never really scored more than 20 goals in the Championship either. And then when he was in the Premier League with Chelsea and Palace, and I think he was at Middlesbrough as well, didn't do anything with any of them. So it's kind of a surprise he's playing so well now. Maybe it's just because of the system that Bielsa's playing, or maybe it's just like Timo Pukki last year, where he's kind of had a good start to the season, might drop off. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, like you have to be in the right place to finish them. And Bielsa at the start of the season didn't give him enough credit, said the system allows him for there to be someone there to finish off the chances. But the way he took the second and third goal in particular, properly class, like definitely will have a good season, but again, could be a bit of a Pukki syndrome, will definitely fizzle out, but will be huge for Leeds this season.
Yeah, he was always quite highly rated when he was a youngster at Chelsea, and clearly Bielsa rated him because he played him all of last season and the season before, despite the fact that he wasn't prolific. But this step up in quality, people were saying, they need to improve on Bamford. And I definitely would have agreed in that. I thought Rodrigo just would have replaced him in the team. But I think it's sort of similar to what you've seen, maybe not so much now because he's a better player now, but certainly 1 or 2 years ago, there was some question marks over how good Marcus Rashford was. But when you seen him in the big games, Marcus Rashford has an unbelievable record against the top 6 and, in the Champions League in big games. And I think you're seeing something similar now when Patrick Bamford's in the Championship playing against teams that he's expected to score goals against. It's almost like an added pressure. But now that he's playing at a higher level, nobody really expects anything of him. That you might forgive Patrick Bamford for not scoring goals in the Premier League. But now, without that pressure, he's just going out and performing something similar to what Marcus Rashford did, 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, they seem to be really enjoying their football, Leeds, at the minute, which is testament to how well drilled they are. Like in the Championship, there's huge expectations on Leeds every season. The fans undergoing absolute misery year on year, playoff final after playoff final. So in the Premier League, it's not a free hit because they're not going to get relegated. There's definitely 3 worse teams in them. Everyone's predicted Leeds to do quite well. They're just enjoying their football, I'd say.
Yeah, especially the third goal where they kind of had that close control in the box and then kind of shifted out of his feet and put it in the far corner. I was like, I don't expect that out of his locker at all. Like, I know he's been scoring kind of headers and he's been in and around the box, but the second one was a great shot from outside the box and the third one was brilliant control with his feet as well. So it's just surprising to see him do so well. Like, you didn't think he had that kind of stuff in his locker. Like you said, Bielsa said he's always kind of expected to be in and around the box and someone's going to finish those goals. But second and third goal in particular on Friday, they were taken really, really well. And that's not just him being in and around the box. It's just genuinely good football from himself.
Yeah, I think in this match, Villa were quite unlucky in the first half. They definitely seemed to be the better team, and I think Grealish had a shot blocked off the line by Luke Ayling, and they really looked like troubling again. And you're thinking, are Villa going to win a 5th game in a row? Considering, I think a lot of people, certainly I did, they had them going down. But I think 3-0 in this match, slightly misleading. But,
yeah, it's very flattering to Leeds, isn't it? Like, I think Villa were 140, 150 to 1 to win the opening 4. So good luck any Villa fans that cashed in on that. But just looking at Villa now, they aren't, like, we're told to talk about Villa in the podcast from a few listeners, but they're just not what they're cut out to be, Villa, at the minute. Like, they are a bit overhyped. They're riding a bit of a crest of a wave. Do you get me? Like,
I don't think they're overhyped, but I think it was pretty genuine because, like, honestly, I had them going down and I really don't think they will now. I think winning 4 games in a row in itself is very, very impressive.
Yeah, but we're very fickle at the minute. Like, 1 minute we're deciding they're going down. Well, they do sign Ollie Watkins and Barkley, which are huge acquisitions for them. And I don't have them going down now, but like a lot of the punditry and the talk around them, listening to Off the Ball, bit of hyperbole, like, oh, can Villa go 7 or 8 games, top 4 challenge? It's very, Yeah,
I think I seen someone on Off the Ball. Would it have been Ger Gilroy, the presenter?
Yeah, because he's a Villa fan. He is.
Is he? Okay. Yeah, I think he was on about them potentially getting top 4 and stuff. And I was like, come on, man.
You can never really judge teams so early in the season as well, because I remember Hull when they came up a few years ago. I think when Micah Phelan was the manager, I think from the first 5 games they got 10 points and they were sitting 4th on the table or something like that, and they ended up going down anyway. I think Villa are definitely a much better side than that Hull side, because I think Hull only had 14 players going into the start of that season. But you can never say, especially a team like Villa after 4 games in the season, or 4 or 5 games a season, that you're going to go on and get top 4. The only one really was Leicester. I know Leicester a few years ago, when Leicester won the league, they started well and everyone's like, oh, they'll fall off. I think that's kind of why people nowadays are a bit more willing to say teams like Leicester and Everton are going to finish top 4 or challenge for a title, because of that one time it happened with Leicester.
Yeah.
But when you look since that Leicester result, only the big 6 have gotten into the top 4 since. So you just have to be wary about the first 5 or 6 games in the Premier League. It's only really around 12 to 15 game mark. The kind of overall league tables kind of takes its shape over.
Yeah. But even Leicester couldn't do a Leicester last year. Like, that was a serious top 4 battle job, obviously plagued by injuries, but it's just very, very hard to beat those top 6 squads and that money that they have.
Yeah, and Ronan, you were talking about teams being hyped too early on. I think there's a little bit of that with Everton. A lot of people are saying, oh, they could get top 4, and I don't think it's a crazy shout, because there's been no dominant team really in the Premier League so far. Liverpool, obviously, they're genuinely performing, but definitely more cracks in there than there was in the last couple of seasons. They won't be getting 96, 97 points like they were the last couple of years. I think that's fair to say. But Everton, you've seen that with the 2-0 loss against Southampton. That was bound to happen. There's still holes in that team, as good as they are.
Yeah, well, I think Everton as well, as they've got a really good manager in Ancelotti. The last time, 2014 was it? They nearly finished top 4. I think they finished 4 points off Arsenal.
Yeah, under Martinez.
They had Martinez, who was not a great manager. To be fair, their team they had that year wasn't exactly amazing. The team they have now is probably better, and they have Ancelotti, but I still think there's a way to go before Everton finish top 4 or challenge for top 4. I could be proven wrong. They are a fun side to watch. Obviously, not as a Liverpool fan, you don't like to see them doing well, but especially when you're watching the likes of the Merseyside Derby, it's nice to have competitive games there, because I remember last year, I know we did 0-0 at Goodison Park, but that's kind of standard these days. But at Anfield, Liverpool only played one of the front 3. They only played Mane, and they played Shaqiri in midfield as well, and we still end up beating them 5-2. So it is good to have. It's good for English football to have that kind of a good competitiveness up there. But like that, there's still cracks there. I think especially at the weekend, people talk about how good Calvert-Lewin has been. I think they look really, really one-dimensional without Richarlison on that side.
Yeah, Richarlison's obviously carries a huge threat, but 2-0 loss to Southampton, it's not a disgraceful result. I think Southampton, just an absolutely fantastic team, so well drilled under Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, look, Southampton have exciting young prospects. Walker Peters looked electric and obviously got the decision in his favour that sent off Luca Dean, which changed the game even more in Southampton's favour. They were really able to control the ball after that. And just a good consummated performance from those lads. Like, they really didn't mess about, didn't give Everton any space or chances. Everton looked quite lethargic, like you say, one-dimensional. But I think some players like Luke Godfrey could be big for them this season. Obviously, got quite a good deal for him. Wasn't too impressed with him in the game, but I still think we do have a lot to see from Everton this season. But yeah, full credit to Southampton. Probably one of the best managers outside the top six is Ralph Hasenhüttl. And they looked every bit of those 3 points. Danny Ings just looks absolutely electric, completely missing Liverpool. When you see Divock Origi playing last night, who just isn't even a footballer at this stage. No offense to Divock there, that scathing attack, but yeah, Ingsy looks unreal. I have to say, Southampton just looked the full package.
You will let Divock away with that for the Champions League goals.
Even Che Adams this season up along Ings, he's looking a lot better. I kind of thought he was a bit of a bust. He came in from Birmingham and he kind of does the dirty work for Danny Ings. Not to say Danny Ings doesn't work hard. That Southampton team works hard all over the pitch. And I know two players they were looking at. I don't know if it was ever really realistic. Were two players from United, Brandon Williams and Scott McTominay. And those two players would fit right into that team. Players full of energy, full of hard work. Their work rate's unbelievable. And you have to have that in the Southampton team. Southampton didn't really bring in many major signings this season. No. So I was thinking, will they be able to carry on that good form from the end of last season? But so far they have.
But like, they're playing that sort of high tempo, high pressure football. You could sort of liken to Klopp slightly. And they've lost Emil Højbjerg. I know he didn't feature the back end of last season, but you just think you need some extra legs for the back half of this season just to pad out that squad a bit. Like you're saying, like a McTominay would just fit right in there and do them the world of good, to be honest with you.
The only player they've really brought in was Theo Walcott. And even you wouldn't expect him to be starting every game. You kind of expect him to be a bit more of a squad player. But like you were saying with Che Adams, I think I touched upon it last week as well. He looks a lot more comfortable on that side, especially since the restart after in May. Was it May? Yeah. And I think it was there was a stat came up there where he scored 6 goals in 12 Premier League games since football resumed after the lockdown. So he's kind of settled a lot more in that strike partnership with Danny Ings.
Yeah, Hasenhüttl's just doing an unbelievable job. But I think it would be interesting to see in January if they decide maybe we should spend a little bit of money, because we've got a thing going here. And if we can get some players to build on that momentum, they could really become a problem and possibly, start contending for Europe like they were under the likes of, Pochettino and then Ronald Koeman, Claude Puel. They fell off a little bit because they hired Mark Hughes for some reason. And then under Hasenhüttl at the start, he had a tough job. It wasn't going too well to start, but he's really showing his credentials. He's doing unbelievable work with Southampton.
Claude Puel being sacked was a crime. He got them Europe and League Cup final. Was shocking. I mean, it's kind of worked out from the end because they've got a really good manager in Ralph Hasenhüttl. I know Puel didn't play the most exciting football, but that shocked me at the time when they did sack him.
And look what happened to Puel when he went to Leicester.
Yeah. Even at Leicester, I didn't think he was that bad. But Rodgers obviously done a lot better job since he went in.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they had got rid of Puel for Hasenhüttl directly. But I think they just got rid of him and then didn't know what to do. So hired Mark Hughes, who is a horrendous coach. One of the worst managers I've known in the Premier League, to be honest. So moving on to some more action from the weekend. We had this as the match of the weekend coming into it. And it was a dead rubber game. United against Chelsea. I tweeted on the Twitter account, what a colossal waste of everyone's time, with a gif of Biggie Smalls falling asleep, because it was a non-event, wasn't it?
I think the only exciting thing that happened in that game was Mendy nearly kicking it into his own net.
Yeah.
And even at that, Mendy actually probably was Chelsea's best player that day as well, because he made 3 or 4 really big saves.
Unbelievable save at the end from Rashford.
I think, unreal.
Yeah.
Solskjaer was celebrating. He thought it went in. So was I. Don't know how you said it.
The only real big talk points from this game really was the penalty decision on Harry Maguire and Azpilicueta.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact they spent straight from that play United went up the other end and there was a wee nick on Rashford's boot from Thiago Silva, and they spent 2 or 3 minutes looking at that on VAR, and then they didn't even look at the Maguire thing. It's not even that they didn't, VAR looked at it and said, no, it's not a penalty. VAR didn't even think it was worth looking at. It was obscene to me. Personally, I think it was a penalty.
Yeah, no,
I mean, it was a clear penalty. He had his arm around him.
Mm-hmm. I seen Maguire put up something on his Instagram story about, I think it was just before that incident or something, Reece James had an arm around him or something. So it was a wee snide remark at anyone saying it was a penalty, which, for the record, I agree it was a penalty.
I think they've always had problems, officials, like going back to the World Cup days, in the box, contacting the box, putting your arm around your man and marking. I think there's always been issues around that, but absolutely was a penalty. And VAR, it just feeds into the wider VAR conversation that we're sick of having. It's just farcical at this stage, isn't it, really, lads?
Yeah. There's
no consistency at all.
Even last night in the Champions League, and it's kind of going off a little bit, there was the Bayern Munich game, and Bayern Munich won a penalty, and then VAR overturned it for an offside on Lewandowski. But because Lokomotiv Moscow don't have the proper VAR set up in their stadium, they were just doing it off the main television camera angle, and it was impossible to tell whether Lewandowski was offside or not. But they gave it anyway. So it is. I think it's not just the Premier League. It's a wider problem with VAR.
Really, do they not have? I thought they'd have to meet UEFA standards. I imagine they would have had to just had a standard. You know how VAR works.
They didn't show on the coverage the lines or anything. They spent a lot of time over that, so maybe they did. But if they do have the lines in that, they should be showing it to people who are watching the match, because there's not even been any. Because I went looking for it last night afterwards because I was kind of a bit curious, and there was no real images of Lewandowski. Like, say the Mane one against Everton. I'm not going to get into that again or whatever, but say the Mane one against Everton, you had the lines. There was none of that being shown on the coverage of the Bayern Munich match last night. So I just thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe football should take a page out of rugby's book. Not often you'll hear me saying that, but with the referees mic'd up, I think that's brilliant when you're watching rugby, because you can actually hear the referees reasoning there and then.
Yeah, class. It is absolutely unreal. They to be fair, they've got that right for a long time, rugby, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they had what do they call VAR?
TV ref. It's a lot simpler.
Yeah, what's the 3-letter abbreviation?
Oh, TMO, TV match official.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, TMO. But anyway, this match was a bit of a non-event. I think it was really two sort of young attacking sides who are questionable at best defensively, and they were basically a little bit scared of each other. It was like when Derek Lewis fought Francis Ngannou in the UFC, two heavy hitters, two heavyweights, unbelievable knockout pair, the two of them. And then in the fight, I think there was 11 punches thrown in 3 rounds or something, because they were terrified of each other. It's basically the same thing happened here.
You could also rebrand that as two fraudulent managers desperately trying to cover their tracks with their defensive records, you know?
People were getting really mad over Frank Lampard wearing a hat. That was fucking so weird.
It did look
such a weird agenda to have.
He did look funny. I think it was because it was raining as well, so he was kind of drenched as well, so it was miserable altogether.
Was the way he wore the hat was kind of a bit weird, but the people were mad at that. They were just like, why is he wearing the hat? Fraud. I was like, Kai Havertz and Warner, who spent massive money are playing shite, and this is the thing you decide to point out.
Oh, God bless football Twitter.
Yeah, I think Warner is going to come alive now with Christian Pulisic. Pulisic was like, the dribbling that he had on him was akin to something you'd see from Hazard, honestly. Just the way he run at that United defence, even though there wasn't much to pick out, chances-wise for Chelsea. Still, that's only going to be a positive for Chelsea going forward.
I thought Havertz was horrendous. This is the first time I've watched Havertz and thought he was really bad. I think he was hooked off after an hour for Mason Mount as well. Nothing kind of stuck to his feet. Every first touch was getting away from it. It was just a really bad performance.
Havertz, this is his pre-Real Madrid move, and you know, COVID not being an issue, he'd be at Real Madrid right now. And how quick to judge him would it be at the Bernabeu? So at least he's at Chelsea, because if he's turning in these performances in the Bernabeu, like, he'd be a dead man. You know, you just don't have any time to adjust to La Liga.
Yeah, the two teams, United probably edge the play, but not really enough to warrant a win. You know, if Rashford's shot had went in, it wouldn't have been a robbery or anything, but two sides really couldn't have complained about that result. Gary Neville said on commentary, when the game's like that and you approach the game like that, you can never really complain if you lose. So another match we'll talk about, slightly better match. It looked like possibly an upset was on the cards, but Liverpool pulled through and came back against Sheffield United after a slight scare when they went down to a Sander Berge penalty and possibly another one. But you two are Liverpool fans. You're well placed to talk about this game.
Are we going to have to talk about VAR again?
We don't have to if you don't want to. It's getting a bit boring, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk made about the penalty, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, the VAR only looked at whether it was inside the box or outside the box, not that it was a foul." Personally,
he won the ball.
I think he got burned. I think he stood on McBurney's foot before he got the ball, so I can see why a foul was given. I'm not totally sold on it being a foul, but I can see why it'd be given as a foul. In terms of inside or outside the box, I mean,
it's harsh, wasn't it?
It's as harsh as it is as the line is the box, so you can't really complain about the foul be given as a penalty. To be fair, I thought we definitely should have given away a penalty for the Jota challenge on Berg. There seemed to be clear contact there.
Yeah, we got away with one there, but the first penalty, I just don't see it. So it levelled out.
In terms of overall performance, Liverpool just, even like last night against Midtjylland, Liverpool just kind of looked a lot more cagey. I think they were really cautious because normally they'd be zipping past about the place. In fairness to Sheffield was set up really well defensively. And I know everybody said it on commentary, their performances haven't warranted them being only on 1 point. And they were unlucky not to get a point against Liverpool. Liverpool probably did deserve to win the end. Second half, kind of, they flexed their muscle. But it was kind of interesting seeing the new formation Klopp was trying. But it was kind of more interesting that he kind of played Jota as the deep of Jota and Firmino. Because I would have always kind of thought Jota would be the more forward player. And Firmino, when he signed, was signed as a number 10. He's kind of playing that false 9 role that everybody kind of knows him for. But overall, I thought Gomez was very good. Fabinho kind of had a bit of a stinker, to be honest. And then Jota took his goal very well. It just didn't look overly convincing against Sheffield.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Jota because he didn't know where he was in the first half. We really went at Sheffield. We were going 100 miles an hour. Penalty changes the game. Sheffield looked like old Sheffield. And then we just managed to get the job done. So it's just one of them. Like I thought it was really enjoyable to watch myself, but it's not going to go down the history books. But yeah, Liverpool march on 3 points.
In terms of football sort of relegation-related lingo and cliches, I think Sheffield United are probably at the stage where you'd worry for them.
It does have to be said, we're from Ireland, so we didn't actually have to pay the pay-per-view for this match, fortunately, because there's a sports channel over here that shows some of the pay-per-view matches for free. So we're not sad who sat and paid €15 to watch a 2-1 on a Saturday night.
If you've paid 15 quid to watch any singular football match, you deserve a match like that. You deserve worse than that.
Oh yeah, you're an idiot. Complete idiot. I feel sorry for Villa fans though, because on that, someone was saying Villa's next 6 matches on televised matches are all pay-per-view matches.
Yeah, and the Leeds game isn't even a part of that. Like the Leeds game just gone, that they've seen themselves lose 3-0. That was also one of the pay-per-view, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, horrible times to be a football fan. But to be fair, there are a lot of people at the minute that just don't have anything better in their lives than football. And at the best times, don't have better than their lives in football, which is maybe something horrible to say, but it's true. And they will pay £15. But it is going to be scrapped, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to see, though. I think every fan base that was involved in a game that was on pay-per-view this weekend, I think most of their fans had a large number of fans donating to food banks and other charities, because I know there was a lot of attention given to Liverpool fans for doing it, but I think Villa fans donated a similar number, something like £100,000 as well.
Newcastle
Leeds,
as well.
Yeah, Newcastle, Leeds. So fair play to all those fans.
The Barstoolers' official stance is not to commit any illegal activities, but if you want to go ahead and stream a match like that, we won't say anything. Wink, wink. So going on to our next section of the podcast, 6 games in, 5 games for some teams. Who would be your surprise package of the season so far? Could be a team, could be a player, anything like that. Who have you been taken aback by.
In terms of a team, it's not so much a team or a player individual. It's a duo, Kane and Son. We talk about it every single week. But the way Son is top of the goals and Kane is on top of the assist chart. Obviously, Kane doing bits for me in fantasy football and Son doing bits for James in the fantasy football or draft league. But everybody's known how good they have been for ages. But it's just kind of, I didn't expect the two of them to start so well this season. Because I never really, Son's always kind of around there, but I never really thought of him as like one of the single standout players in the Premier League. But this year he's just hit another level.
Yeah, for me, there's a couple of contenders, definitely. But for me, my one standout, just shock, really. I touched upon him in this podcast already. Patrick Bamford. I just really didn't think he'd be as good as he is. Now, he could be what Timu Pukki was last year. He could be a Tammy Abraham where the goals really dry up. But honestly, I don't see him drying up too much. I think he's probably going to get at least 15 goals this season. The way Leeds are playing, the way he's playing, he looks like he doesn't have any pressure on his shoulders. And if he does go on he has a couple of bad games, he can just be rested for one or two. You know, Norwich didn't really have that luxury last year because Timu Pukki was easily their best player. Well, him and Buendia maybe, but certainly no one was, vying for that centre forward spot. So I see Patrick Bamford's run continuing, and he's been a very pleasant surprise. Maybe not that pleasant as a United fan, but he's been a joy to watch. He really has.
My surprise package in the Premier League has been Che Adams, a man that I've rooted for a while because I've sort of stuck with him in fantasy football last year. But it's great to see an English partnership. You don't often see two strikers for any side in the Premier League and to have two English strikers week in, week out, proving their worth for the team. And it's just a great example of someone giving a chance to a footballer who's only had one season in the Premier League, rarely getting a second season after the season he had. Ralph Hasenhüttl has repaid the trust that Ralph Hasenhüttl has placed in him. So yeah, he's definitely the surprise package for me.
And a nice little fact about Che Adams, if you don't know, he's actually named after Che Guevara. I learned that a couple of days ago. Yeah.
Didn't know that. There's another one as well, actually. Wilfried Zaha has had a really good start to the season. I know most people kind of rate Zaha as one of the better players outside the top 6 clubs. But I think he's already got more goals than he got last season. Like, he's an absolutely brilliant start to the season so far. And even Palace at that. Palace have kind of surprised me how well they've started the season. They've got 10 points after 6 games. Which, I mean, it's not going to be something that's going to maybe get them challenging for Europe or anything. But they're kind of always still near the relegation zone or battling relegation with about 10 games to go. They normally find their form around then. But they've started way better than I've seen them in the last few years anyway.
Yeah, I think Palace are one of the better lower teams to support, But now I think a lot of the smaller teams are getting better. And it seems like everyone has a Zaha now. Like, Mupai's shipping him with goals for Brighton, like we said, Che Adams and Ings. It's good to see, really.
For Wolves.
Yeah. No, I think Palace. I don't think Palace are ever really going to finish any higher than like 14th or so. Maybe they did last year. I don't think so. Because our form fell off a cliff at the end of the season. But they just know what they are. They're dogged. They're rigid. They're basically what Ireland were up until Stephen Kenny came in. Just unapologetic. And again, we've been over this in the podcast about Roy Hodgson, but he's doing a very good job there. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Burnley as well. Burnley are kind of... I know Burnley finished in Europe one year, 7th place, I think it was. Mm-hmm. But they got knocked out next year in the qualifiers to Olympiacos. And I kind of feel sorry for the fans that year because they got drawn against Aberdeen in the first round for that. So that's kind of not great. I think it's the first time playing in Europe in 45 years. And you got drawn to Scotland. I'd be fairly raging about that myself. But if you're in the Premier League for long enough, there are always going to be 1 or 2 seasons where you play better than you normally do. And you might challenge for Europe. I don't think that's going to happen with Paz this year. It's just they've kind of started a lot better than I thought they would do.
Yeah, so moving into the predictions for this week, I have an updated predictions league standing. And this week, James, you got a grand total of, I think, 0. No, you got 1 point. Mixer had quite a good week, but the standings are Ronan, you're on 12. I'm on 14. Mix is on 16 and Jam's on 17. So, yeah, your predictions, your wild predictions, James, they're starting to affect you in that sense. So it's pretty close, honestly. The 5 games we're going to predict are all laid out here. So the first game we're going to be predicting is Liverpool at home to West Ham. And I'm not really in a position to predict a shock, to be honest. I think West Ham, I think Moyes has them well drilled, to be honest, this year. They look okay going forward. So I'm going to have them scoring a goal, but that's about it. I think Liverpool's class would be far too much. They're a bit of a dilemma at centre-back at the minute. I think Joel Matip's out. Van Dijk's obviously out. I think Fabinho's going to be out for the weekend. I think West Ham will definitely get in the score sheet. But yeah, 3-1 win to Liverpool. Not very exciting prediction from myself.
I'm going for 1-0. I just think, if we kind of look at our form last season, our early form, we kind of struggled to beat teams. It was kind of 2-1s, 1-0 victories. I think it's probably going to be like that for a while now. Keeping a clean sheet without Fabinho and Van Dijk will be a good achievement, I suppose. But we just don't look like we've got our mojo going forward yet. So 1-0.
Yeah, for me, I actually was going to have West Ham as one of my surprise packages for this season. Just the way they're going, I thought we were going to do that. But I'm going to say 2-1 in this game. I think, the form Antonio was in and the problems they caused City, I think the score, but I think we come away with a 2-1 win.
The next game is a very interesting game, in my opinion. You've got Villa and Southampton, two of the surprise packages of the season. Maybe Southampton, not so much a surprise if you watched them last year. I think they were better than their points total probably said, and they're showing their quality now. But two very good teams that both play good football, got some good players amongst their ranks, and I think Villa are going to continue to sort of crash back to earth a little bit at Villa Park. I'm going to go for a narrow 1-0 win to Southampton.
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Southampton win. Pretty much all the same reasons yourself. I think Southampton are a bit more consistent. Don't know whether this Villa kind of run of form is just a freak or not, but I do think their form suggests they're better than they actually are. So 2-1 Southampton. I
am going to go for an outrageous one here. I'm going to go for a 3-2 Southampton win. No, not too outrageous, but yeah, okay. I think Villa, things are starting to catch up with Villa, and they're going to be tested a bit more defensively. So yeah, 3-2. We just
gone to progression of 1-goal wins there: 1-0, 2-1, 3-2.
Yeah, full house of Southampton wins there. So I think after losing that game against Leeds, Aston Villa, I think that could knock their confidence a wee bit, in the same way that their confidence was helped by winning game on game at the start. So next, probably the game of the weekend. You've got United at home to Arsenal. So after Thursday, Arsenal are going to have to come back to reality. They're going to be putting themselves up against Chris Shields and going to have to unfortunately go up against lowly Paul Pogba on the Sunday. But yeah, now, as a United fan, we'll see how my confidence is after tonight. We're recording this on the Wednesday against RB Leipzig. If you can get a good win there, I'd definitely stick with my prediction. My prediction is 2-0 to United. I don't know. I'm just quite confident ahead of this one. Arsenal not in good form. And I think United are starting to click a wee bit. Wasn't brilliant against Chelsea, but definitely looking better than we did in the first couple of games. So 2-0 win to United, fairly comfortable.
I think Arsenal are going to be licking their wounds after Thursday night's defeat to Dundalk.
Yes, inevitable defeat.
Inevitable defeat. Patrick Hooban hat-trick, I'd say at least 6 or 7-0 to Dundalk. Easy win anyway. They're kind of form. I didn't watch the full match against Leicester. I only saw the extended highlights and then what was on match today. They dominated the first half, but didn't really create or take any chances. And in the second half, Leicester kind of found them out a bit. Once you kind of figure out that Arsenal team, it's kind of easy to figure out how to get in behind. I know Leicester had a few long balls that got in behind and they got through. So I do think there's enough to suggest there that they're not quite on the level of United yet, so I'm going to go for a 2-0 United win.
Yeah, for myself, I'm going to disagree with this. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, and the reason behind that is I don't think they're on the level at United at the minute, like you say there, but I just feel like Aubameyang's due a goal, and I think he might just bag a wee brace for them because he's got that individual quality, get the service into him. He's been really underperforming this season, so yeah, I just think he's due a goal.
So one of our friends was saying that Aubameyang hasn't, since Aubameyang last scored a Premier League goal, in all the competitions, Kane has got something like 18 goals and assists combined.
Yeah, something ludicrous like that. Helps that they're playing in the Europa League qualifiers and stuff.
Yeah,
to be fair.
When they're not playing against actual football teams.
Yeah. So next game, Leeds at home to Leicester. Very good game. Two great sides who play good stuff. It's at Elland Road. Leeds have had a very good start to the season. They're looking confident. They're scoring goals. but I'm going to go with a wee bit of an outlandish prediction. Going to go with a 3-0 comfortable Leicester victory. I just see it just all falling apart in this game, at least for Leeds. I think their form this season is possibly a little bit flattering to them. Look, they're very good, but I think at some stage they're going to have an off day, and I think that's going to come this weekend. 3-0 Leicester.
I am also going to go for a Leicester win, and I think I'm going to go for the same scoreline. I don't think Leeds have lost since the opening day at Anfield, but they were lucky against Sheffield to get the win against Sheffield. They were kind of lucky to see out the Fulham game that they won, so I do think playing against better opposition, they will be kind of found out a bit, because since the Liverpool game, they've not really played the best level of competition. Apart from City, actually, got one draw at City.
Got a draw with City. Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, I think you're right. Their form suggests that they're better than they are, so I'm going to go for 3-0 Leicester. I'm going to
continue the same as you, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 Leicester win, and again, similar reasons. I don't think Leeds are going to quite catch up with themselves. Still think they do look quite convincing. But then again, I think Leicester just due a performance. Vardy's back starting this week, which is huge. Obviously, bagging a goal in late at Arsenal is going to do wonders for his confidence. So yeah, 2-0 Leicester.
And then the last match we're going to predict, the fifth and final match. I can't say it looks like a brilliant game on paper, but it is the classic 6-pointer at Craven Cottage as Fulham take on West Brom. Pretty easily.
This week, is it?
Yeah, pretty easily the two worst teams in the league. So I think it'll be both sides will know how important that game is, and they'll be a little bit cagey. And in the end, neither will win because 1-1. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for 0-0. They're both shit, aren't they? Like if they both end the season with no wins, I would not at all be surprised.
You'd be a little bit surprised.
I'd be a little bit surprised.
I would be surprised.
Yeah, I suppose, but they're both fucking bad at football. Like I said before, I just don't like that Fulham got promoted over Brentford.
Not a bit.
Not even because Brentford would be more exciting because they're a new team in the Premier League. I just think Fulham bullshitted their way to that promotion last year. Scott Parker's a shit manager. I'm not hearing anything against him, against that opinion. He did well. Scott. He did well when he came into the Premier League, right? But Fulham were already fucking relegated at that stage. So 0-0. That's the two of them.
Jesus, that's a bit harsh.
You've gone through from like first gear to fifth gear there, Ronan. You've gone like really just scathing attack.
I never like West Brom in the Premier League either.
Yeah, they're worse.
The battle at the Cottage. We are going to go for a Fulham win, right? A 2-0 Fulham win, nonetheless. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. 3 points on the board for Scott Parker, just because you said that, Ronan. Huh? No, but
Scott Parker supporters.
Any chance of sponsorships we had are gone out the window now, Ronan.
We'll get a sponsorship from Scott Parker if Ronan leaves.
And Raid Shadow Legends. Anyway, yeah, that's what I feel. 3 points on the board for Fulham. Let's go.
Speaking of sponsors there, any potential sponsors listening, we are for sale. We will promote anything as long as you give us money. Absolutely anything. We will promote your political agenda.
We mean literally anything. We're all college students. We want the money.
We will sell it.
And if Rowan's profanity's too much for you, we can always give him the boot.
He's dispensable.
Okay, so if Raid Shadow Legends are listening, our asking price is 20 grand.
20 quid, 5 each.
Even, yeah.
Okay, so I think that just about rounds up the podcast this week. I think that was a pretty successful podcast, boys.
All in all, yeah, very good.
Don't like that you maybe talk about Fulham, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I won't back you into that corner again. So thanks very much for listening. Whatever you're listening on, whether it be YouTube or the streaming platforms, please like, subscribe, give us a rating, whatever it is that you can do on that platform. It helps us hugely. We're nearly 60 subscribers on YouTube, and we're really, really happy with how things are going. Got a lot of support so far, so hopefully that continues. So thanks for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you again next week.